Greetings everyone and welcome back to the Otaku podcast. Today's episode we are covering the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel movies. Two of them are out right now and the third one is going to be on its way pretty soon. So this is our first podcast from the Fate franchise, I guess. So yeah, we're gonna talk about a bit of Fate stuff and more, so stay tuned. Otaku. Intro, la 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 la. Okay. So Jack, where all did Fate start at, basically? Because I know some stuff, but I just don't know everything.
I think. I think. Well, didn't you got into Fate before I did? You were pretty much the one that got me into the franchise.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I watched Fate Zero and Unlimited Blade Works, like, I think 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. Probably 3.
Yeah, a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you a basic overview. In a brief history, in 2004, Type Moon, the organization, and writer Kinoko Nasu came out with the hit visual novel Fate Stay Night, which contained 3 different storylines called routes, and these routes were different ways that the Fifth Holy Grail War could have gone, and each of them are canon in their own way, being the first route, which is the shortest route of the game, the Fate route, which has been adapted before by Studio Dean, but hasn't been very well received and it doesn't age well, so we'll probably do a review of that later on.
I'm going to watch through it.
Program.
I've got that on the way. But yeah, so there's 3 routes. The Fate route, the Unlimited Blade Works route, which is where Studio Ufotable took up the reins on the Fate franchise, pretty much.
Most popular route?
Yeah, it's a very good route. However, I do think I like Heaven's Feel a bit more.
Definitely the most popular.
I do like Heaven's Feel a bit more in terms of its pace. It just seems a lot better. But that's probably only because...
Visual novel, there's a lot of talking.
Yeah. I might check out the visual novels at some point, but that'll be further down the line or something.
Very long, but I think Fate is it's like a big classic in the visual novel industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I also want to check out like some of the other ones, like Hollow Ataraxia is one that I've heard a few things about, but not too much.
Hollow Ataraxia is more of a fan service game, if you ask me. There's a lot of fan service in it, and a lot of hentai scenes.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like I would enjoy it a lot then.
If it's for you, go on ahead.
Yeah.
So there's Unlimited Blade Works, which is the most popular route in the game, which is the second route. And then there's finally the longest, the darkest, and the most sexual route in the game, Heaven's Feel. And these are the movies that we are going over today cover the Heaven's Feel arc, which are, by the way, fantastically adapted by Studio Ufotable. They did a great job, and they made a good decision making this a movie trilogy instead of a full series. I mean, I would have liked a full series, but I think the pacing would have been significantly worse in the TV series.
I mean, it would have been nice if we got like more dialogue and that kind of stuff, but I think the movie pacing is really good.
Yeah, Ufotable did a good job with planning.
Plus, with like release times, they planned on releasing it over 3 years instead of just over like a year, kind of. So They probably have been like working on the movies alongside like their other like
We've been working on the
series
movies ever
projects like
since
Demon
Unlimited Blade
Slayer.
Works was announced.
Yeah.
Because they were
So they
announced
pretty
side by
much.
side back in
Oh, really?
2013, I think.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Heaven's Feel was announced in 2013 alongside Unlimited Blade Works.
Nice.
And I was gonna previously mention the first movie came out in 2017. I think in maybe spring of 2017, and then the second movie came out in Japan in January of last year, and then the third movie, Spring Song, just released last month
Yeah.
after being delayed twice, it was originally supposed to come out in March, and actually it was supposed to come over to the U.S. in May.
So in the spring, you're saying?
We were going to see the movie in the United States in May of this year, but
Yeah.
it ever since the pandemic struck, it got delayed and then delayed again, and then finally it released in Japan last month. And I'm not going to see this movie in theaters. With everything going on, I'm not stepping foot inside the theater. Even with Demon Slayer, it's not going to happen.
I mean, if they have it at the Monaco Theater, and they have like good sanitation, because I probably trust them more than just like Cinemark theaters. I mean, not Cinemark, because that is the Monaco Theater, but like some of the smaller theaters and not as like classy, those might be a bit worse. But
Yeah. My computer monitor just shorted out.
Oof. Mine's gotten like a few dots where the pixels like glitch to like a locked color sometimes, but then I just have to like poke around it and it fixes. But yeah, so why don't we start off with the first Fate Heaven's Feel movie, Presage Flower?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because
Then insert footage from the movie.
probably I might put like fight scenes when we talk about those a little bit. But yeah, so the movie basically starts off with like a little bit of a prequel to like the actual route itself, I'm pretty sure. So it starts off with like a bit of backstory between how like Shiro and Sakura actually met and ended up living together pretty much. Also, like,
Well, they don't really live in the same household
Yeah.
until like later on in the movies.
But then they become like friends and whatever. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting because like in the Unlimited Blade Works route, we heard that like Shiro was in archery, but you just never really saw him in there. Which I think it's really important that they did that with the Heaven's Feel movies because it's less obvious, I think, that Shiro is Archer is actually Shiro from the future, kind of. And I think that
and I forgot to mention
Shiro
that
up as
there
an
will be
archer
spoilers.
setting Shiro up from the beginning as an archer definitely points in the direction of that realization, without the need of as much context later on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's another good point that you brought up, because I didn't really think of that beforehand.
Yeah.
Because the movies did focus a lot on the archery aspect of his
it gives
daily activities.
Shinji a bit more screen time too.
Oh yeah, because Shinji's definitely a significant character in these movies.
Yeah, at least the first two.
Yeah, at least the first two.
Yeah. So yeah.
But anyway.
So basically, Shiro breaks his arm and whatnot. So he decides to give up archery pretty much. And then that's pretty much where the the Unlimited Blade Works starts off. They have the same fight scene and that kind of scene, but in the movies they just have it like as a montage in the background with some music
Oh
playing.
yeah.
Which I'm fine
Oh,
with.
that's one thing that really.
I'm fine with. If they would have made the movie like 2 hours and 4 minutes or something, I would not have cared at all. Especially if they like reanimated it from the Unlimited Blade Works series with like because that
sure.
fight scene was definitely pretty good. But yeah, the movies then go on to basically, I'm pretty sure, cover like Shiro and Tosaka meeting. I'm pretty sure in the Unlimited Blade Works they go to the chapel also, and like talk to
They do go to the chapel. They do.
Yeah, but I think in Unlimited Blade Works it's like a lot shorter than it is in the movies, because they definitely in the movies tried to focus on Kirei's role in the whole series, kind of.
Kirei is definitely a very important character in the movies.
Yeah.
My monitor is not booting up right now, so I'm just going to completely unplug it and restart it.
Okay. But yeah, so then basically the war starts going on.
Monitor.
The war starts going on. As soon as they leave the chapel, Ilias Fiel confronts them and is like, "Yay, this is what you do when you fight each other. Yeah." And then there's a brief fight scene. Shiro heroically pushes Saber out of the way and gets struck with a bunch of attack damage. But thankfully,
here's the
he
thing about
has
that
magical healing power that we don't necessarily get that much context to, other than Rin saying that like it's
if you watch Unlimited Blade Works.
Yeah, it's like Rin's contract with Shiro's contract with Saber like gives him extra healing power, which is because of Shiro's like catalyst that he used to summon Saber, which is the Avalon's scabbard or something.
The Avalon artifact that's sealed inside of him by Keitsugu.
Yeah, and you basically learn about that in Unlimited Blade Works.
And also in Fate Zero. Mostly in Unlimited Blade Works because it really wasn't focused a lot in Zero, but basically in Unlimited Blade Works, Shiro got to save his life. Kiritsugu inserted the relic of the scabbard of called Avalon to Shiro's soul to save his life from the fire, and that same relic was used to summon Saber in this route.
He had like a pseudo magic circle in that his shed or something that Kiritsugu placed in there, and because Shiro is in like need of it, the Avalon was used as the catalyst basically for Saber's summon. But isn't that because after like he dies though? I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, yeah, he summons Saber right after he dies because Lancer skewers him, and then Rin uses the pendant she has.
That's when he gets back home, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's like re-confronted by
and then Lancer follows him?
Yeah.
And this happens in all three of the routes. So basically, in the visual novel, those events leading up to the part where the routes diverge, that's the prologue of the visual novel, meaning that that is the main starting point of all three of those routes. But at one point, those three routes diverge into their own timeline.
So how do you actually like choose between the routes? Like, does the player actually get to choose? Or like, what is
no, not really.
What is like Shiro's decision that actually splits the routes?
You usually go with the Fate route first, and then once you finish that route, you go to Unlimited Blade Works, and so on.
Yeah, but like, what was like Shiro's actual choice that like splits the routes? Because like
there isn't any choice to split the routes.
It's just events playing out differently, but yeah.
Yes.
I guess you would say that like what they decide to do like after Saber's summoned, I guess. Like you could use Saber's summoning as like a reference point or whatever. I don't know.
Mm.
But that's
Yeah,
basically where it splits.
I think right after.
Kind of.
Yeah. And also there was and to go back to go to the part where the routes diverge, the moment where the Heaven School route diverges from the prologue is when Shiro is walking Sakura home, and then he encounters Zoken at the front gate.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that scene. Because Zoken is like the
it was in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Mm.
He's like,
yeah, Zoken
why
is
do I
the
hear
head of
insects
the
in that house in the middle of winter?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, and then he hears a deep voice behind the bushes. You're insert the scene there.
Yes.
And it's creepy to think that you can hear the slithering right after he goes into the door of the shed.
Well, yeah. It's definitely a creepy house. But yeah, so
and another thing.
So Zoken's like actually like pretty integral to the Heaven's Feel route. He wasn't really in the previous two, I don't think, that much. But in like Heaven's Feel,
his rider got cucked in the first two routes.
Yeah, but so yeah, he's basically behind the scenes doing all sorts of stuff. And the interesting part is with the Heaven's Feel route is that the whole event with like Caster like putting up a bunch of fields around everywhere and collecting magical energy, Caster gets defeated pretty early on in the Heaven's Feel route. So
yeah, she died.
Yeah.
Same with Kuzuki. He died. They get slaughtered by True Assassin because I think Zoken corrupted one of the servants in the. Say it if I'm wrong, but I think Zoken corrupted Assassin who was in front of the Ryoto Temple.
Yeah,
and when he was corrupted, True Assassin came out, like burst out of Assassin's body, and I'll say in the visual novel there's a little bit more build up to that, but in the movie it was almost random.
Yeah, it was relatively random. But generally, if you watch Bladeworks, you know generally that the dude out front was the assassin servant, but he was like summoned by Caster, I'm pretty sure. So
he was summoned by Caster.
Yeah, so there was another assassin servant on the field too, but in like Unlimited Bladeworks, I'm pretty sure like True Assassin doesn't even show up. Because like Zoken doesn't do anything really.
No, True Assassin isn't even. This is the only route that True Assassin exists in.
Yeah, but wasn't True Assassin also in Fate Zero also? But I'm not sure about that.
No, I don't think True Assassin was in Fate Zero.
Yeah.
And then I think the next part would
it was
probably be.
Or maybe it was like the thing that they did with like a Lancer, because like the Lancer from Fate Zero is actually relatively the same as the one from Stay Night, but it's just like a different version of him, kind of.
Actually, it might be a different servant.
The version that dies easily. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, both Lancers in Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works did have to skewer themselves because they had such incompetent masters. In fact, Lancers in the Fate Stay Night visual novel, Kirei isn't even Lancer's original master.
Really? So who was Lancer summoned by then? In Stay Night then.
Lancer in Fate Stay Night was summoned by another woman. I forgot her name, but she wore the exact same she wore the earrings that Lancer has in Unlimited Blade Works. The reason why Lancer wore those earrings is because he wanted to dedicate the memory of his original
Oh yeah.
master, who Kirei murdered in order to participate in the Great War.
Because, I mean, he's like a priest in like that church or whatever. So, like, because he has like multiple crests, or like he can carry crests or something that aren't used, something like that. So like when Sakura gets like hurt later in the series or whatever, that's in the second movie. When like Sakura gets hurt, like Kiri uses all of his crests to like treat her wounds or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And one thing I also want to talk about was the fight between Lancer and True Assassin, and that was like one of the I think the biggest major fight. Yeah, it was definitely a big moment for Ufotable to show off their camera angles and cinematography, especially in the part where the like in the truck scene.
Yes,
Truck-kun got damaged.
I can probably get some sort of meme or something from truck damage. Truck-kun.
Oh, I have a meme. I'll send it to you via Instagram, and you can put it in the video. Basically, it's Lancer working as an Uber Eats driver.
Oh yeah, I just realized that I can probably get a bunch of stuff off of. I can probably just give credit to like whatever that Fate shit poster dude was. I probably could
Aron Butthead.
Yeah.
Headbutt.
I probably could
Aron Butt.
just give him like credit for what we used from him in the description or something, because what his channel does is he basically makes memes out of the Fate movies. Like he edits different scenes together, kind of.
He basically does a bunch of shit posts.
It's very hilarious. So link for that will be down in the description. But yeah, so basically the whole
go check out Aron Headbutt's channel.
The whole fight is leaning in Lancer's direction, because Lancer's cool like that. But then he gets lured to a pond by True Assassin, and they basically fight each other. Lancer decides to use his Noble Phantasm, but he's like at a further range, so it'd be harder to hit, kind of. And True Assassin manages to like use his Phantasm to like scrape Lancer's heart, which allows him to crush it, and basically killing Lancer. And then
and in the meantime, he gets weakened by the shadow.
Yeah, the shadow's there basically.
Yeah, the shadow.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Shadow is definitely one of the most important.
Yeah, because it's like just some random thing that you don't necessarily know what it is. That really in the series, pretty much. Because it didn't show up in like Unlimited Blade Works.
And we'll go over the true identity.
In Unlimited Blade Works, there was just a big blob monster thing that happened because Shinji got turned into the Grail or something.
Yeah, when Gilgamesh yeeted Ilya's heart. Basically, a relic from Ilya. He yeeted it into Shinji's stomach, and he turned into the Grail. You can put a clip of it, because it is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. And that is the longest. Shinji
You're gonna have to edit so much in this video.
Yeah. And that's like in
the edit so much in this
last
video,
section of Unlimited Blade Works. But yeah, so
Lancer's defeated. It was hilarious, though.
He's swallowed by the shadow, and then I believe it's the
we cut ahead
to like, Castor and after Castor's been defeated and used as a corpse, kind of, and then we see the shadow again. But yeah, and then it swallows. It swallows Castor then at that point.
Yeah. And Archer comes out to help Saber when Castor is about to strike her with Rule Breaker. And Archer basically comes in time to sever off Castor's arm to save Saber's life. And actually, and one of the things that we forgot to cover was the showdown between Arturia and Rider Medusa.
Oh yeah. I don't necessarily remember that much from the first movie.
So I'll explain this one. And right after Shiro summons Saber, and after they leave the church, they wander around through town and they find
Oh yeah, that scene.
Shiro's friend from the Archie Club, Mitsuri.
Guess who it is?
Getting sucked dry.
Yeah, by Ryder. And then guess who the master is? Whoa, it's Shinji. How'd that happen? It's almost like he was the antagonist.
And Shinji is using this. Yeah, Shiro's surprised that Shinji's the master of Rider, and he's using this grimoire as like as a master crest. But seeing that Shinji has very poor supply of mana, and that and I mean the reason why Rider has to get energy from sucking people dry is because Shinji doesn't have enough mana, like very little mana compared to Shiro. Shiro can supply enough mana for Saber to fight for a limited time
and
unlimited strength
like that.
But and Shinji and seeing that Rider is pretty weak from Shinji's lack of mana supply, Arturia easily beats Rider.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really a full fight. It was just kind of Rider got knocked back easily by
It was very
Arturia.
one-sided.
I don't think it's necessarily completely due to lack of mana that she wasn't able to like do anything. I think it's just that they started a fight, but after like Rider got knocked back, like there was really nothing else that she could do at that point. Because she hadn't accumulated enough mana. Or she just decided to retreat because Shinji's incompetent like that. And just wanted her to fight Saber, which I believe might be like the one of the counters to like the Rider class. But I don't know the class.
I think the Saber class is like effective against Rider classes because there was a power system that Kinoko Nasu had for Prince servants have advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, because like Sabers are also good against like caster classes, I believe, or not. It might just be Arturia that's actually good because she has like magic resistance or something like that. But yeah,
so
certain things would make sense, like archers being weak to like Saber class or something, and then like Rider class being weak to like Lancer or Saber or something like that, because Riders don't necessarily have as
I think it was the Saber class. It's effective against Lancers, but they're not effective against Sabers. In fact, Sabers are effective against Riders.
Yeah,
and then after
like,
Rider
Berserkers are
getting
electrocuted
because
when Arturia first fights Berserker in this first movie, like she's at a disadvantage pretty much. Yeah. But in the
that's
second
mostly
movie,
because she has a very limited supply of
because,
mana.
Yeah, Arturia gets the upper hand in the second movie because she has like unlimited mana effectively, and she actually uses her Noble Phantasm in that, so that'll do it pretty much.
Yeah, and the reason why she never used her Noble Phantasm was because one, it'd reveal her identity, and two, she didn't have enough mana at the time to supply a Noble Phantasm because she had just been summoned, and that took away a lot of mana.
Yep. But yeah, so I've not really played Fate Grand Order that much, so I don't know any of the class pairings really.
Believe me, I think I'd drain my money if I did.
Yeah. But yeah, let's see, where are we? How about let's talk about the ending to the first movie, where the Shadow shows up again, and yeah. Basically, Shiro is confronting Zoken, because I think I'm not sure what's at that point completely. I think it's when Shinji's defeated, and
Basically,
then Shiro doesn't want like
Shinji had already
Sakura to
been
have to be able to
defeated.
do stuff or whatever.
And so he confronts Zoken about it. And actually, during that fight, Rin and Archer storm Zoken's mansion, and they find the room full of bugs that
Bugs.
that Zoken had Sakura captive in.
Yup.
And Shiro almost dies from Zoken after Saber is corrupted by the Shadow and defeated by True Assassin.
Well, she wasn't
Zoken
defeated by True
attempts to
Assassin.
murder.
She decided to like be devoured by the Shadow instead of being defeated.
Really?
Or True Assassin put it like, you can either choose to be defeated here or face your like true darkness or something. But yeah.
Yeah, and when Shiro's about to get killed by Zoken, Ryder comes in to save him, and now she's a lot stronger than before.
Yeah, so Ryder saves Shiro,
The cute part
and then
about there was one thing I wanted to cover before we move on to the second movie.
yeah.
And that's the relationship between Shiro and Sakura.
Yes.
How do you think their relationship played out in the first movie?
I thought it was going pretty good. Like, Sakura's not necessarily in that much of a threat from people yet, but yeah, it's definitely clear that Shiro wants to protect her.
Yeah, you must protect the waifu.
Yes, indeed. But yeah.
I mean, most of the fan base calls her Worms, but whatever. I like
Worms.
Sakura.
Worms. Crest worms are like
There was a
kinky,
time.
oh my
There was
gosh.
a time when the Type Moon fan base like straight up. There was a time when the Type Moon fan base straight up despised Sakura, but that's kind of died down
That's big
once
sad.
these movies came out. If anything, I would just blame Zoken and Shinji because he's an incompetent token bastard who arrogantly and miserably tries and fails to prove himself, and on top of all that, is a fucking rapist.
Yeah, exactly. Which that leads to his death pretty much in the second movie. But yeah, so the second movie starts off with like Shiro basically finding out that Saber's been taken pretty much, and his realization that he can't really.
He's been
do
taken
much of
hostage
anything.
by the Shadow.
Yeah.
He's no longer a participant in the Holy Grail War. And actually, part of the movie starts off with him getting some interaction with Ilya, who previously fought, who's still the Master Berserker. However, Ilya does feel a need to become friendly with Shiro because he's no longer a master or a participant in the Holy Grail War,
Yeah,
and
he
two,
doesn't have a servant anymore.
Ilya is like the quote unquote older sister of Shiro.
Yeah, because
She's 18 in Stay Night.
yeah. Really? Oh yeah, because like ages are weird with homunculi.
Yeah, she does look a little bit like a lolly, but she's 18 in Stay Night.
Yeah. But yeah, so
And this movie was
yeah. So,
Want me to go ahead?
no, I was just gonna mention real quick that like how Ilya is like Shiro's like younger sister basically is because Shiro's dad basically fought in the previous Grail War, and he hooked up with one of the Einsburn family homunculi, pretty much, is what had happened. But then after he was like defeated and whatnot, or not defeated, but like he was outcast by their family pretty much, and that's why Ilya basically wants to kill Shiro pretty much.
She thinks that Shiro is well, actually I don't know if she wants to kill Shiro because
She's pretty much been told
she
to
did
do
mention
it,
that she wasn't originally aware that she was aware that her father Kiritsugu had adopted a boy from the disaster he had caused, but she didn't know exactly who this boy was until like the beginning of the visual novel.
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to put into light about the second movie is that the movie presents Ilya in a very different perspective. So, in the first movie, Ilya is seen as a very unlikable and a very masochistic, very sadistic little girl. But
I guess I'll just have to kill you.
We see a side of her that usually isn't shown. Yeah. And I haven't actually watched this movies in English dub yet.
Yeah, the dub's good. Although, like, it was weird hearing.
I just don't like the voice of
Kirito's-
Shiro or Archer.
It was weird hearing Kirito's voice as Shiro again, but then I remember that that's actually the dub actor for Shiro. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't really like the voice of Shiro or Archer in the dub. That's the two voices that I don't like is Shiro and Archer.
I've always thought that Archer's dub was fine. Like in Unlimited Blade Works, did they have a different voice actor? Because the Unlimited Blade Works one is pretty good for the dub.
I mean, yeah, it's all right. They're just not particularly I thought.
I think
would.
it fits because if they just use Shiro's voice actor, it'd be just kind of too obvious that Archer is Shiro pretty much.
Yeah,
plus
and
it
plus
reflects
it's hard
that he's like
for Bryce
older
Pathbrook
pretty
to
much.
mimic two voices.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm personally fine with the casting and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with you liking the dub for Unlimited Blade Works. I think that's fine. I mean, I like the dub for the most part, just not Shiro and Archer.
Oh my gosh, how can you watch the dub? They don't have emotion. Oh my gosh.
They didn't have emotion. That the dub would be even worse.
Yeah. I mean, people have complained about like some of the Disney dubs that they've done with like big names, saying that like you shouldn't necessarily do like big names. Like they got a bunch of like famous actors for the Princess Mononoke dub, and people were complaining about that. But I watched part of the movie in sub, and like I mean the sub version of Princess Mononoke is like older, so the voices aren't as crisp. Like, sure, they did do a pretty good job with the acting, but Japanese intrinsically, like, it's like emotion is shown in different ways, kind of, in Japanese versus English. Because in like English, you're more like used to it, kind of. Certain things with like the voice keys you into certain emotion. And the same thing with Japanese, but since we're American, we aren't as in tune with the Japanese side. Unless you've been watching like subs and whatnot forever, pretty much.
Which is mostly most of the fan base.
Well, yeah.
But back to what we were talking about. When Ilya was presented, she was definitely presented in a very different light. She was definitely a more empathetic individual, especially if you didn't know and there was one scene in the movie. It was after Sakura was treated by Kirei. Shiro was feeling very discouraged about Sakura's current situation, and Ilya was there to cheer him up before that one scene that was like so well animated. It was a scene in the rain where Shiro embraced Sakura.
Yeah, that was definitely a good scene.
One of the most emotional. If there was one thing that came out of Lost Butterfly, which I loved Lost Butterfly,
I saw
it was definitely a lot more drama.
Yeah, I saw the part from the channel that we follow or whatever, Aron Headbutt. He did a one where like Shiro just turns and walks the other way.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I saw that one.
It's hilarious. But
yeah.
yeah, there's definitely more drama in Lost Butterfly, it feels like.
Because there's really only one major servant battle in that movie.
But like, if you watch the movies one after another, it's really not that big of a deal because the pacing is there and it's pretty good. Because a lot of stuff starts to get like paid off in the second movie that's been set up in the first.
So yeah, I mean I'd say that in terms of the action, this movie, the second movie is probably the weakest out of all three films because I've heard that the third film has probably as many fights as the first film.
Yeah,
if not more.
I would hope so.
But I think that in terms of story quality, this movie definitely lived up to its expectations as an adaptation of the video game.
Yeah. But the one fight scene that the second movie does have, like, they just did an absolutely amazing job with it. Like, it has, like,
I cannot imagine how many hand-drawns that must have taken. It probably took over a million hand-drawn.
They didn't use anything. Because, Studio Ufotable, sometimes they do CG.
It's entirely hand-drawn.
Yeah, like, they did CG with, like, Demon Slayer and some of the fight scenes, which I wasn't the most happy about.
Also in Phase Zero.
Well, yeah, they've done some CG with stuff. But it works good when you're drawing like a large object that you want to keep its size, kind of. So like in ReZero, they used like CG on the white whale a bit, which that just helps because
yeah.
Because especially if they're like changing like camera angles and stuff, it works best to have a CG and rotate the camera, rather than having to like draw a different like thing every time, which can mess around with like size and whatnot.
But I think that Studio Ufotable did. I think the money that they spent on that scene was definitely worth it. Like all that drawing paid off well because the audience was just so absolutely stunned by.
It's so hype because you don't know what
left
like Hercules,
fans in absolute awe.
You don't really know what Hercules like Noble Phantasm is like before the fight if you just watch the Heaven's Feel movies. But when Saber defeats him initially, he just gets back up. He comes back to life is what his phantasm is. And
we just like
so then he like
soundtrack
he like dies a whole bunch
scene.
of times. Hercules dies a whole bunch of times, and Artoria pretty much definitely has the upper hand. But then Berserker's like basically charging in for like his final kind of push, and Artoria raises like her sword and basically just slashes him with like the largest like energy blast you could possibly imagine. And it's all like perfectly like hypely animated. And then, and then Berserker melts because he can't revive himself.
Yeah, and the Shadow takes him hostage alongside Saber and Lancer. And there was also a scene right after that where Saber Alter confronts Shiro, and this is when her visor broke in the middle of the battle. Her visor snaps and it unveils the identity of Saber Alter, and like you can see the look on Shiro's face. He's just heartbroken.
Well, I mean, he kind of knew that it was Saber though. He just didn't know like how different Saber was, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of excited.
She's now a servant to the Shadow. I'm kind of
excited to see like how it all plays out with Saber Alter though.
I already know what happens, but I definitely like to see how it's done.
Yeah, because also with like having an altar servant in the Fate Stay Night route, it also points to like the larger like Fate franchise because there's all sorts of like altered servants and that kind of stuff, which that
Mostly
also
for hot top
helps.
like, models, though.
Yeah, that also helps like set up like the importance of like what the Holy Grail actually is, kind of, because it's not just like they're fighting over a metal cup. That's not what the whole movie's about. If it was, it would be relatively boring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get that epic
Oh, yeah,
Fortnite
for
victory
sure.
royale. But yeah.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, but so after that whole fight scene, Berserker's defeated. Ilya's still alive because she doesn't die, because Shira saves her pretty much, and they start running away because
Well, and
the
Archer as well.
shadows. Yeah, because the shadow is starting to catch up to them, and they basically have to run. They're being chased by True Assassin also, and then Archer basically fights True Assassin, which isn't the most hype considering the fight that would just happen right before, but it's still pretty good because Archer actually prevents the shadow from destroying the... Not... He doesn't prevent the shadow from destroying the whole area. He uses his one of his noble phantasms to create his big like gloomy shield. Yes. He uses that. He tries to protect everybody, but Shiro ends up getting hurt, and he gets his whole arm taken off. And this is the point at which you realize that Shiro and Archer are the same person, because Archer cuts off his arm and transplants it to Shiro.
I'm going to talk about that scene. So right after Archer sacrifices himself and donates his arm to Shiro,
yes. A local man donates
in the visual novel, when
local man donates 200 kidneys.
So yeah, after Shiro gets the new arm, he goes to the church, and Kira explains to him all like the lore and the concepts behind the Archer arm. But in the movie, right after that scene where Archer cuts his arm off, Shiro just shows up home with that new arm and Sakura at the front door. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?"
And then Rin
it
tells
feels
him
rushed.
that yeah, but then Rin tells him that like the bandages are like a seal and he shouldn't take it off. So I think they did a pretty good job of presenting that.
Yeah.
But
then when Shiro was in the bathtub, he wondered like what would happen if he took off the bandages, but then like the magical circuits throughout that arm acted up, and that caused him to spasm.
Yep.
And then and another thing that I want to talk about with the movies is that you all know that the original VN had a lot of sex scenes in it, especially in Heaven's Feel. Like, oh my goodness, the sex scenes are rampant. And in the movie, there's a scene where Shiro cuts part of his finger open and lets Sakura suck some of his blood off his finger. That was in the remastered version of the VN Rialta Nua, and that replaced the sex scene. So basically, the Rialta Nua version was created to be a non-18 plus version of the game.
If you didn't know, Mana Transfer has some pretty 18 plus rules.
Yeah, in order for Mana Transplant to be sanitary and secure, you have to have sex.
Which is kind of funny.
It's like in Nasu is like, what's a better way to what's a better excuse to have 18 plus content in our VN by requiring safe energy transplant sexual intercourse.
Yep. But yeah, basically Sakura's like weak. She needed like mana and whatnot. But yeah.
And the crust worms inside of her drain all of her mana and make her hyper horny. And so there's actually a scene in the movie where she gropes herself.
It like messes with her like brain and whatnot. Which initially I thought made her like more numb or whatever, but it's actually the opposite.
It makes her more
addictive,
like
hypersensitive,
yeah. And another thing with the like the worms is that they'll also affect the dopamine senses in the brain. So like what I said earlier, when Sakura gropes herself, when she triggered the you know what, that affects the dopamine system in the brain, and the crust worms love the feeling of dopamine, and they'll feed off of that sensors that go to the brain. I know I'm going into like a physiology class right now for all the people watching this, but yeah, I'm kind of a biology nerd.
Yeah. Crust worms are weird, though. Because it's like, they say that they're all throughout her body, pretty much. But, like, really?
Restroom?
You mean to tell me that this lady has, like, hundreds of worms inside of her? Like, it doesn't make that much sense. And then the scene where, like,
and then
the
the
muscles get, like, all torn up or something. Like, and then she just can sit up normally like nothing has happened? What? Yeah.
There and before we get into that one infamous scene in the movie that got a lot of people going, there was a scene in the bathroom after Sakura had groped herself where she comes to the realization if she injures Shiro and gets him immobile, she can keep him safe at home. That's a big foreshadowing for the inner darkness that Sakura has been containing inside of herself.
Yeah.
Which would eventually lead to her transformation into Dark Sakura.
That's the scene where she, like, is talking to the mirror, kind of. And then, like, she says, like, something or another.
Yeah, where she goes into yandere mode.
To herself, and then, she's like, wait, what did I just say? Huh? Yeah.
That was a hint to
the
Dark
creepiest
Sakura.
part is that like they keep the camera focused on the mirror when she walks away, and then her shadow moves afterwards. Yeah.
Because it kind of flickers. That's another foreshadowing.
That's definitely the main foreshadowing of the big identity reveal.
Oh yeah. And there was also we forgot to go over that scene in the library at school.
Yeah, that was
that
like
brutal
brutal
battle between Ryder. Yeah, between Ryder and Shiro. Basically, Shinji holds Sakura captive. This is before they went to the church for Sakura to get treated. Shiro finds out that Sakura's been abducted by Shinji. He goes to the library and he tries to get Sakura, free Sakura. And so, while Shinji has control over Ryder actually knocks Shiro into Shinji, which allows Shiro to disarm Shinji and free Sakura from him.
Yeah.
And Shiro does get injured from this. Well, actually, Shinji tries to stab Shiro, but when Ryder kicks
like
him,
a book that he used
it doesn't hurt Shiro because he reinforced a library book with his magical circuits, and when Shinji finds this out, he goes into a jealous fit and tries to attack Shiro, and then Shiro counters attack him and knocks him out.
And then he tries to get Ryder to attack, but then Sakura is revealed as Ryder's actual master, and she basically says, "No, you're not gonna hurt my best friend." And it's like, and then Shinji just activates whatever crystal on Sakura, which makes her go crazy, kind of. And that's like all happens before.
And Shiro does get
Sakura actually gets treated by Kirei.
Another thing I forgot to point out is that Ryder does get treated again by. Well, she gets beasted again by Archer.
Yeah.
Rin and Archer come in to save the day.
Yep. But yeah, so in other words,
and moving on
Shinji
to the
gets
scene
left
where
off being really very upset, so he decides to just head home. But before
he
kind of end
he pretty much
scene,
does the temper tantrum at home.
Yeah, before that last scene though, there's a few things that happen. One is that Sakura is actually like revealed to be the Shadow pretty much, cause that one scene where she's like going around in the Fantasyland kind of. and then she wakes up and she's like eating someone's finger, and Gilgamesh confronts her.
Gilgamesh catches her.
Yeah.
But Sakura decides to use Gilgamesh's leg as a num-num, and she pretty much gobbles him up, and there was like a really Gilgamesh tried to kill Sakura by skewering her with a bunch of swords, but she managed to survive and eat Gilgamesh alive.
She was dead. That's what they said after that scene, basically, and that's where like all of her like muscles got shredded up. But yeah, cause like she loses her leg and then it's replaced because she is the shadow. So basically, it's just plot armor, kind of. But yeah, so
and there was also
Sakura gets bedridden, and then after a while, she decides to go back home, kind of, because she doesn't want to put Shiro in danger, kind of.
She also makes moves on Shiro because, well, she comes into Shiro's room and Shiro thinks that she wants his blood, but then she's like, "Nope, I want sex."
I might have a knife in this cabinet. Also, another thing from Aron Headbutt is that they did the thing where because there's a scene in the first movie where True Assassin like goes through the door or something and talks to Shiro. But they basically swapped the two scenes to where that scene with Sakura is where True Assassin comes in. And then
holy hell.
Yeah, and then the scene from the first movie, it's like Sakura showing up, but it's like the scary music version. That one was very good.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very end of the podcast, I'd like for us to insert Aron Headbutt's video about Kirei and the Mapo Tofu.
Oh yeah, that's a scene from the first movie. That one's good. But yeah, okay, so
we might insert it in the part where we talk about the first movie.
Yeah. So basically, the movie comes to a conclusion, kind of, as Shiro confronts Zoken again, and Zoken basically tells him that Sakura is the shadow, and that he has to kill her, pretty much. But Shiro doesn't want to do that.
And she also... And Zoken also did reveal that there is part of the corrupted Holy Grail inside Sakura.
Yeah, there's like a fragment from the first Grail War, Holy Grail War thing.
From the first Grail War, when Kiritsugu tried to destroy the Grail.
Yup. And then we get to the last scene.
And the last scene in the movie...
Yeah.
Where Sakura comes home, and Shinji attempts to rape her. And
assert
there's
his dominance,
the whole scene...
We gotta be YouTube safe. Assert dominance.
Who cares? We're a small platform anyway. We're not gonna get demonetized.
So Shinji T-poses all over Sakura, but Sakura is like no, and then she turns into the shadow version of herself pretty much after killing Shinji, and that's where the movie ends.
It really ends on a cliffhanger, and it really gets you wanting to see the final the final movie.
Yeah, because I'm betting that like Spring Song starts with like Shiro actually like finding like Shinji dead or something like that. I would assume that's how it would be.
I think that's what happened. I think that's what's gonna be because I think the movie will definitely start out with Shiro reaching the Zoken Manor and seeing Shinji lying on the floor, and then Sakura's gone to try to dispose of Rin and Ilya at Shiro's mansion.
Yeah. Because
I'm not going to say any more because
basically everybody else has like some sort of alliance going pretty much. And Sakura is practically the final boss because she's still technically a servant too.
Oh yeah.
And I guess Soken still is a servant too. I mean, not a servant, a master.
Master.
But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to
because he does have his own desire
cool
to be the Holy
stuff
Grail.
happening. Yeah.
And they did release a PV, a new PV for the movie, and it has a lot of spoilers. I mean, well, it's technically like the Attack on Titan Season 4 trailer. It shows a lot of important scenes from the VN that VN readers would recognize, but I think the anime-only viewers would not really know what was going on.
Yeah. So, I'll probably show that clip at the end of this. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the first two movies. That's pretty much it for the first two movies. Yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping that they get the Blu-ray versions out pretty soon.
I'm hoping that Ufotable has had enough time to work on the Blu-ray version that they release the Blu-ray in Japan and hopefully in the US, like within the next 3 to 4 months, because I want to watch that movie very bad.
Like
We're probably not going to get a theater release because
next spring at the latest, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but so if they've been working on like Fate stuff pretty much for like the past like 5-6 years ish, hopefully they do the original Fate Stay Night route to kind of finish out
and if they don't
impact
end up
on
doing
the series.
You also have to know that there are other Type Moon works that have come before and after Fate Stay Night.
But yeah.
Like you've got Mihoyo, you've got Tsukihime, and a bunch of other VNs from... and there's also Kara no Kyokai, but that's a light novel series that got adapted into a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely...
I want to see that.
I think I'm on the second movie right now. The first movie of Kara no Kyokai was really well done. It was very suspenseful, very scary, but it was very well done.
Is that done by Ufotable also?
Yes. Kara no Kyokai is basically what Ufotable was like before Unlimited Blade Works. It wasn't like God Eater. It was better than God Eater, but it probably was about as good as Unlimited Blade Works in terms of camera angles and stuff, because and we'll talk about this we'll talk about Kara no Kyokai when we do a podcast on it. So this is going to be pretty much it for tonight.
To watch all the movies.
Definitely, yeah, we will.
Yeah, but that's
we're gonna make sure
our Fate Stay Night podcast this week. Hopefully we can do a chattercast like next week or something if Chris isn't busy. But yeah.
And we'll have Krogram on with us because Krogram couldn't join us tonight, which is a real shame.
Yes, big sad. But yeah. Also, another thing I want to plan on doing is as soon as like ReZero Season 2 Part 1 gets finished, I want to do kind of a podcast on it, because we've like talked a little bit about ReZero, but not too much. However, I will say that
and
the episodes are starting to get spicy. Like, yeah.
And our ReZero podcast in Season 1 is our most viewed video on the channel.
And hopefully our second one will be a bit better in terms of production value than the first one. But yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see you guys
and we were just starting out.
We'll see you guys next time. Leave a like, subscribe.
Taku out.
Yeah, Taku out.